Morning everybody, Tim Moore here. I'm on beautiful Squam Lake in New Hampshire. I'm at Kayak University. The sun's just risen over the horizon. There's a group of us that are out salmon fishing. I thought I'd film a little video on how I troll for landlocked Atlantic salmon in my kayak. So I'm going to troll lead core this morning, and we're in an area that's known for salmon, and depending on the time of the year, they'll start in the spring up pretty shallow up near the surface, and as the season progresses they'll move down until we get a thermocline that sets up, which is when the lake turns over in the summertime. They will go under the thermocline, but until then they could be just about anywhere. And I'm going to troll lead core. So lead core line is a braided sheath with a thin strip of lead in it, and it's metered. It's colored, and every color is 10 yards long, 30 feet long, and each color at 2 miles per hour sinks 5 feet. So you can meter your depth based on 2 miles an hour. So if you want to get down 10 feet, you let out 2 colors. If you ever heard lead core anglers talking, you heard them talk about how many colors are you fishing. And so I'm going to start out about 2 colors down, a little bit of ripple, call this a little bit of salmon chop. These fish should be up near the surface. Tied to that lead core, I use an FG knot. I like the FG knot, and I have 50 feet of fluorocarbon, 6-pound test fluorocarbon leader, and a tiny micro swivel that's about 10 to 12 feet from my lure. And to start out with, I'm going to be trolling spoons. I'm going to troll this orange. This is a moose look wobbler. I've swapped out the treble with single hooks on all my spoons to do less damage to the fish. I release a lot of the fish I catch anyway. And I'm going to start this out 2 colors, so I'm going to run at 2 miles an hour. And one of the key features of this autopilot is the ability for cruise control. So once I get to 2 miles per hour, you hit this little button on the dial on the remote. It looks like a speedometer. Hit that and it will hold you at 2 miles per hour. The motor will self-adjust to keep you as close to 2 miles per hour as possible. So I'm just going to let out my 2 colors. And trolling lead core, people either love it or hate it. Trolling period. And because it's a matter of just waiting and hoping that the fish are there and you get a bite. So I'm going to let out my 2 colors. Nice and easy. I'm running my 2 miles per hour. Sometimes I'll stick my rod in the rod holder behind me. Sometimes I'll hold it and give it a jig every once in a while to impart a little erratic action in the moment. So there's 1 color. Now we're into purple as my 2nd color. Colors will vary depending on the brand of line. I like the suffix line. I like the color changes. Some of the lines that I've used in the past have really subtle color changes, and it's easy to lose track of how many colors of a color when a color has changed. And I like the suffix because it'll go from gray to purple to light blue. It's really abrupt color changes. So there we go. I'm gonna turn my clicker on, close that reel. I'm gonna loosen my drag so that when a fish hits, if I wanted to put it in the rod holder, fish can take some line. I'm just gonna let out a little bit more because it's gonna be up in the air. You can have a side rod holder. It would be best to have a side rod holder that's up in front of you, that the rod's going out and it's not sticking up so high. But I didn't bring one today because I usually hold my rod. I don't fish 2 rods when I'm trolling lead core most of the time in my kayak, unless I'm fishing planer boards, which I'm not gonna do today. And now we hurry up and wait. Drink my coffee, watch the sunrise. So the speed at which you want to run your lures really depends on the individual lure. The best way to find out what speed your spoons run at, and to find out what speed is too fast, is just to hold that lure in the water next to get to the speed you're gonna go, and hold that lure in the water and watch it swim. If it starts to spin, you're going too fast. Slow it down a little bit until it stops spinning and you get that nice wobble. Flies, I troll a lot of streamer flies sometimes. I may troll some streamers this morning. Streamers, You can troll much faster. You can troll really any speed you want to troll a streamer. If you're not running a dodger, your speed is whatever is catching fish. You can speed up, you can slow down, doesn't matter. Spoons, you're kind of locked into a range, or at least a maximum speed that you can run. Okay, so there's a number of us out here. There's probably 7 of us out here trolling. Most everybody's trolling spoons. Nobody's really getting any hits to speak of. I haven't had any hits. So I'm gonna switch over to a fly. And I love these Lakewood Products lure wallets. They come in various sizes, but they make really good lightweight fly boxes that are, you know, super durable. But anyway, I'm gonna pick my fly. Keep all your flies in here. I'm gonna pick one of my favorites. And I'm gonna tie on a fly. And with a fly, one nice thing is you can do this with spoons too, but you can jig a fly as you troll and impart some action on that fly, stops and starts, and really put some action into the fly. It's one thing I really like about fishing flies. So I'm gonna tie this on. I'm gonna get it out there. The sun's starting to come up a little bit more, so I think I'm gonna run it at 3 colors down, maybe even 4. I'm starting to see, you have a good fish finder, turn your sensitivity up. You'll see the thermocline on it, and I'm starting to see a line across my fish finder that looks like the beginnings of a thermocline. So it's right around 20 feet. It's not super well defined yet, but there could be some fish near that thermocline. I've marked a few at 30. So maybe they're moving down. So sun's rising, so I'm generally going to move down as the sun rises anyway. So I'm going to run out 3 colors, and I'm going to hold my rod and jig it every once in a while. See, it's 20 feet. There's a mark right around just below what I think is the thermocline. So I'm going to try to get down there. Setup. Sometimes you can buy them with the line already on them. But the key is you really want a rod that's designed for lead core. Ceramic guides, this is technically braided line, so it will wear grooves in the ceramic eyelets, the ceramic guides over time. So that's one thing lead core rods are built for. They're also built a little sturdier because of the weight of the lead core. So you want to make sure you buy, this is a Daiwa Great Lakes trolling rod, but it's the lead core version. It's specifically designed for lead core. It's a beefier rod, because if you're fishing in the summertime down 6 or 8 or even 9 colors, 10 colors, there's a lot of weight. You also need a reel that's big enough to hold 10 colors. If you think you're going to want to troll in the summertime, you definitely want to make sure. I buy reels that I know will hold 10 colors, and these are the Daiwa Sea Line. They're a large conventional, it's a line counter. You don't really need the line counter with the lead core because it's metered and colored. But it is nice to know that I have a 50-foot leader on there, so I can use the line counter for that if nothing else. My advice is just take it in, or when you buy it, buy lead core and have the shop that you buy it from spool it up and put the lead core on for you. It's much easier if they do it with the machine than it is to try to do it at home. And one thing you don't want to do is kink this lead, and they'll do a easier job of that with the winding machine. So buy a lead core setup, buy the lead core line. The line should last you for years, quite a few years. I usually run 18-pound test lead core, but it depends on the size of the fish. But for landlocked salmon, it's more than enough. Now that I have a fly tied on, I can do a lot of things. Like I can impart a lot of action in that fly manually. I can adjust my speed considerably. I can run up 2.5. I'll tell you what I've found over the years with trolling for landlocked salmon is that sometimes 0.2 mile an hour speed difference is the difference between catching and not. It can be that subtle at times, and they're pretty sensitive and in tune to speed, but I'll run up as fast as 3 and then run back down to 1.7 and see what happens. Another important factor, if you want to fish more than one rods, or maybe like me, you're right-handed and I prefer my rods going off to the left, if I did have a rod holder mounted that I could put this rod in, the one thing that I have here I have the screw down mounts that tighten, and lefty loosey, righty tighty. The rods on this side of the boat, on the port side of the boat left, are going to want to loosen all the time if a big fish hits it, or if you're fishing big lures or big fish, you stand the chance of loosening it. So you want to try to find mounts that don't tighten down, that lock in. Maybe have 2 screws, 2 T-bolts to hold into your track, or they're mounted to the kayak, fixed to the kayak so they don't spin. The right-hand ones will tighten, which could be a problem in the opposite. They could over-tighten them and then prevent you from getting them off or break them. So that's a pretty big factor. I know for a lot of people that troll, that's something to consider, is the rod holders that you do use. I do know a number of people who will troll 2 rods, 1 off each side of the boat, maybe 2 different depths, 2 different lures, and so you want to make sure that you have a rod holder that isn't gonna fail on you when you need it most. Love on the fly, I'm gonna play around with spoon colors and spoon profiles. Color profile and speed are 3 things that sometimes, even just on their own, one of those things can be the difference between catching and not catching. Sometimes it's speed. A subtle change in speed will turn a useless lure into the hero of the day. Sometimes you just got to change the color and that will trigger more strikes. Sometimes it's the profile of the spoon. Might be a slender spoon. I know that when these thin, I run these thin spoons a lot. This one here is actually, it's got DB smelt. I don't run too many of these. I run a lot of what are called BB gun. Same type of slender spoon. When these stop working, a fatter spoon like a moose look wobbler will get it done. So I'm just gonna keep making changes to the colors and profile of the spoons that I'm using. Vary my speed a little bit here and there and try to find the right combination and get these fish to trigger. The wind's laid right down. It's supposed to kick up here pretty soon, another few hours. But for now, it's like glass out here. It's pretty nice to be on the water. If you've ever heard salmon fishermen talk, you'll hear them talk about salmon chop. Salmon chop's just a little bit of chop out here, which will often bring the fish to the surface. And some days, these glass calm days, aren't the best for salmon, because especially here in New Hampshire, our salmon lakes are generally crystal clear water and they can see really well. A lot of people want to rely on their fish finder to mark fish. When you're fishing for fish, targeting fish that are in the top 15 feet of the water column, the thing to remember is a general rule of thumb on the diameter of the area that you can see is about 1/3 of your depth. So at 15 feet, there's only about a 5-foot area, so barely wider than this kayak. So that fish has to be right underneath you in order to see it on the fish finder. And a lot of times, if they're up less than 15 feet down, you run the risk of spooking those fish, which is where planer boards come in handy. You can plane those boards out 30-40 feet from the boat. So when those fish part out to the sides, they go out and then they'll see those lures out there. Now, one of the biggest mistakes kayak salmon trollers make is they shut their motor off when they have a fish on. If you're trolling with lead core and you start going towards the fish, you're going to drop a big sag in your line and you're probably going to lose the fish. So slow it down a little bit, but do not stop that forward momentum and just fight the fish. Looks like that was the color I should have been fishing all along. Oh yeah, there's fish in here, another fish at 20 feet on the fish finder. got? We're at the leader. Staying down, whatever it is. Swivel. Oh, he's on the kayak. Get it my rudder. Oh, he's on the kayak. Nice. Really nice. Oh, that's a nice salmon. Oh, that is a nice salmon. Now that I got the fish here, I can kill the power. Nice salmon. Wow. Wow, this is a nice fish. Might need a bigger net. Lure just fell out of it. That's the spoon. It's a moose look wobbler. It's called rainbow trout. That is a beautiful fish. Nice healthy salmon. Try to turn it around so the sun's not in the camera. Give you a look at this fish. Wow. This is a beautiful fish. I am so happy with this fish. Always wet your hands when you touch these. I'm not keeping this fish. I'm going to get some pictures and get it back in the water. Rinse them off a bit. Wow, what a fat, healthy fish. Look at that. Nice landlocked salmon. I'm going to get a picture and get it back in. Alright. Got a nice photo. Time to say goodbye. Inches. And there it goes. That was a nice fish.